Hello and welcome to your timeless reading. This is another episode, another timeless intake on the Q series, where we follow the intuition and cover any topic that comes up in Inquisition. Some of these topics may resonate with you if you understand anything or are familiar with the Great Awakening map, or just overall understand what it means to be of starseed quality, as well as on the political front and the front lines of all those conspiracy topics that Q and the controversial symbolism behind it now triggers. So this reading is similar like every other reading. Please bear in mind that feminine and masculine energies are non-gender specific. So whether you're female and or male-bodied is when you may find that messages may resonate with you. Messages could also apply to past, present, and future energies, just bear in mind. And the most important thing to all readings is, because they're generally collective readings, to take the messages that apply to you using your discernment and judgment, and leave the rest behind. Again, certain topics could be of could be more vulnerable to you than others. Just bear that in mind going into the reading. All right, we're starting off with the Justice card, the Three of Pentacles, and the Four of Wands. So the energy of the moment is to help establish trust within your own version of community, so you can apply yourself on what fair justice means to you and those around that you're involved in. In doing it on a micro scale, you'll understand the overall symbolism of what it means to have a universal connection of universal laws and justice. Being able to swim between both realities, knowing that the bigger picture provides understanding, and living it out in actuality in your own private home allows you to not only build trust with your own intuition, but to build lasting relationships around you. There are certain topics that come up in investigating Q overall, whether they are politically involved, whether they hit the denomination of you being Republican, hit the denomination of being liberal, hit the denomination of being conservative, or whatever label is out there. You understand that there is a political agenda behind it, and the political agenda by the masses is still being understood, because I think what's important for the Q symbolism is to trigger everyone on an isolated individual point of view, which is to go home. A lot of people also are feeling that the information leads itself into developing different timelines, where the overall timeline will not matter, besides paying attention what the justice system is slowly coming to terms within their own indoctrinations to reveal things out into the public, because they had to pull the plug back in 2020 with a siren that actually happened back in 2019. And following certain labels and certain symbolisms for certain individuals is what perpetuated them into going to different cycles, different rabbit holes, different experiences, and maybe even get to something as big as the Great Awakening map. However, the Great Awakening map by those individuals who consider themselves to be of Christ consciousness is not the Christ consciousness of, pardon me as I'm going to spell it out, the CHRIST. It is the crystal consciousness of KRYSTAL, the crystal consciousness. The one that is much ancient, the one that is a true vibration going back into the eons of time of what human could even understand and build any of their philosophies on. Learning how to vibe with the crystal consciousness allows a lot of people who looked at the map, for example, to feel that the information provided on the map and the structure that the map is trying to embody is wrong, in the fact that it swayed people to believe that their inner gut feeling is off. And if their inner gut feeling is off, then something is off with something, right? And for most individuals who go in a journey of self-inquisition, think that the issue is wrong with them first before they look outside into an issue that maybe is outside of them. And that is the ultimate goal that I'm getting for this justice card appeal. A lot of you understand that there was a lot of magic involved, a lot of rituals involved into believing the conspiracies that Q overall wanted to bring forward to the table, to allow people to go on a whim and figure out for themselves whether the information provided or the clues or the coding, for example, is something worth looking into with the Hermit energy. Making it very personal here with the Hermit energy, that you have nothing but your own inquisition, your own philosophies, your own maturity or immaturity or lack thereof of any sort of an education know-how to kind of believe something or not. And that's what most issues are on a global spectrum, and that's what makes things so political, is that there are so many broad spectrums as to where someone can have an opinion and then justify it with certain facts here, right? But the Hierophant isn't here to show his facts here. It's based on the intuition. The Hermit is here. The Hermit is here to say whatever it is that you felt justifiably right or wrong, it had to propel you into taking things into isolated form by either needing to put yourself in an emotional standpoint that you just have different opinions with those you have that you experience home with, that, or maybe your own family or friends or just community in general, that they have different opinions to the matter. And it in and of itself, that experience, because it's an emotional experience, puts you in an isolated feeling because you're not of the same. And the Hermit energy is pushing you further into that, to make sure that you learn the justice of that situation, that there is fair game all around. Everyone has their own rulings to oblige by and rules to follow in whatever way that they slowly evolve for them. However it slowly evolves for them here. Look at that, as the Four of Cups comes here and says that disappointments come in ways that you don't know. You can either be someone who meditates and foresees them and have great foresight, but ultimately even that is going to be out of your control, because the foresight is not to necessarily say that the journey to get from A to B is guaranteed. It's more of the journey is guaranteed in the sense that you're destined to go to that destination. How you get there is completely up to you, and there are choices that you're learning to build with your intuition, learning about your intuition, how your intuition is trying to push you to make certain choices for yourself, then also usher in justice-like behavior, fair boundaries, to really learn how to create safe relationships, starting with the one that you need to have with yourself. Yeah, we have the Nine of Cups. There it is. Here's the Hierophant, all right? So ultimately, the feeling of needing to justify the things that you feel intuitively will come with having to build a better relationship with yourself, so that as you grow into understanding the overall politics of what it is that you don't know, is to make sure that your emotions, as the situations unfold for yourself, however they need to, will bring some structure to your life, because you will be prepared in having at least a sense of structure, that any shock that comes in won't basically bring an earthquake to the justice of your mind here. All right, the Four of Wands here gives me that the governing of your own mind here, which is the ultimate symbolism that I'm getting from Q, that the chaos that has happened all around because of something that was meant to trigger is a pattern that keeps showing up in humanity. And that cycle needs to be broken. And the only way that humanity can understand how that cycle can be broken is if they don't look at it as cycles anymore of collectivity, but look at it as a cycle of me, myself, and only, and me needing to mind my own business. And me needing to mind my own business will qualify yourself to understand if you have a relationship with who you are, and build it to a degree of sovereignty that when you show up in the presence of your sovereignty, it automatically propels you to portray unconditional love, because you have no choice but to emanate that anyway on a sovereign route. Let's see here. All right, I want to see the overall major arcana message. Queen of Swords, needing to stand in your truth with the overall justice appeal here again, all right? The justice came out first here, and I said that in a ruling of justice, the message of Q symbolism is to reach an understanding on how it reaches just you, and you needing to mind your own business. Right? Because minding your own business in this energy allows you again to show up unconditionally in matters where you know your energy of time and presence is needed in that moment. All right, it's something that a majority of the people who follow the Q conspiracies, or overall that vibe, have wished for, and collective healing for all, secretly over generations and ancestral timings here. All right, I'm seeing that here with the Nine of Cups, the Hermit, and the Justice card. And a lot of you have been working on for generations time in healing yourselves in meditation, in falling into the indoctrinations of the sounds of ancestors, the synchronicities that tarot also has to offer, and universe, and 1111, angel numbers, all these codes that the Hierophant believes in, and not only believes in, but put faith into others, having to express his or her knowledge as to how they gained it. And over a generation of time, your intuition has built a certain of integrity that maybe in this present time you can't see, because what needed to be called on you is justice. And whether you feel justice to work in your favor is, again, a personal problem here. Okay. Pulling a card for overall minor. The Fool. Wow. It's fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. We have the Fool energy for the overall minor arcana message. Okay, so it's saying no matter what, you're being put into a position where you will have such an awkward feeling of reality that you don't know which path to really choose in besides the path that is given to you that allows you to breathe. And whatever it is that allows you to breathe and provide all the blood to rush into your lungs, to have a mind that thinks, to have a body that offers itself to showing up in the world and being a human experience, all that, whatever, again, small or large scale you are to understanding all of the energy. With the Fool, you'll have no escaping here, with it being overall minor arcana message that the ego will be faced with the ego will face justice. All right, the ego will face the rulings of universal justice, law and order. All right, it doesn't necessarily mean here we mean like the judicial of negative, because I'm not feeling negative energy here. It is the negative energy that I am feeling is the overall suffering of emotional trauma over eons of time, but that has something that is now has been like genetically encoded within you, and with light of reason and light of meditation, as they say, you can learn to work in the void. All right, in the void of what Q series or Q phenomenon, anything, if you know or don't know, may bring to you wherever you are in the journey of knowing it. Okay, whether it doesn't have to be believable, but it is very interesting as far as energies, to tap into that energy and see the chaos ensue again, and the universe's struggle to get humanity to understand that this is not a situation where you get to, as a collective, put the world in another pattern that will cause problems for another thousands of years. All right, so that's the holy grail that I'm seeing at the end of all this here, with the Queen of Swords showing up as the power of having heard the justice of this time here to protect her home, his or her energy, to protect the governing of the mind, to protect the well-being of what it is that you call home, and bring forth that energy to protect it. All right, let's get a little more detail here. Three of Pentacles. So most of you really struggle feeling that the loss of needing to cut ties with people will be the hardest thing for you to ever really consider doing. And I think that's where you feel the most stress. The Death card here. You feel the most stress in causing severance of that of which it is you call home. Something to do with family, but something that home here. The Hierophant loves his family. Family is the most important form of dignified responsibility to show up for. But the Death card proves here that the universe doesn't really like something that an individual has called family to, or at least shown up in a version of family and said that those were pure actions in doing so. Because those are from a different timeline. And those timelines of purity have nothing to do with a new timeline coming in the earth vibration of seven-dimensional healing, where people are not understanding seventh-dimensional energy is not just something given to you and there you go, you have it. It's something that you have to work towards here, all right? With the Four of Cups showing here, with the meditation pose, it's something that you have to work on. If you understand what seventh-dimensional is. If you don't, seventh-dimensional energy is what earth vibration has finally reached on a collective level, and in doing so allowed that of which vibrates on earth to achieve that same level of earth vibration. And a lot of majority of people who call themselves starseeds, say they're in seventh dimensional healing and they're not. They're not there because, well, I just don't see it. Okay, I don't see it, them being there. Justice is calling upon them to say that you have to look further into the inquisition of the mind to experience the darkness within you, to understand seventh dimensional healing means that there is no more suffering in a form of needing to rely on external anything else to really heal. It can really be all done within self. And the only way that you can do that without relying on anything external is to dive into the shadow self. And I think this is why the death card is here, to remind those individuals who are, again, maybe on a top tier, like a little more in depth with their own know-how and their own light, and their own experience here, and how they've died and how they know their own universal life force energy. And just, again, this feeling of, I say again because it came up to another reading that I did before, and it's just not cutting it out. It's not cutting it. What I'm hearing, cut it out. And it's being cut out because there is no choice but it needing to be cut out because it won't work. Whatever some sort of modalities that one thought they mastered, yes, is a mastering, but it's more for the fifth dimension, and for the fifth dimension to explore other dimensions, but not to live in seventh dimension as a third dimensional being. I hope that makes sense. Okay. All right. It looks like the siren of COVID is something that rocked. I mean, obviously, it's very obvious how it affected a lot of people. However, on the universal justice factor, where we can't really pay too much a tribute to how someone expresses their emotion, more of paying tribute to the legacy behind having experienced something. And that legacy comes with either being reliably dependable for others in their time of need, and the other cherishing and worshiping energies that have left an impact and have decided to pass on. There is a almost like a danger to having too many labels occupied in a world, because what it can do is make it almost impossible to live without labels, right? And the universe is so is working double time with the Q message to try to see if, with just a symbolism instead of words, instead of colors, instead of anything but just symbolism and binary coding of information, how could it impact a sea of people globally, and how could it tie together if they were to be able to be tied together? And for those of you who are aware of the map, may cherish your map, but again, may like something of the map that, again, I think you're going to find another realm of disappointment to come in for you, because whatever you are building on knowing is not working out for you, because the universe has a different course and action in mind to help you understand how serious this siren of going home meant back in 2020. Because going home meant further into knowing if you had a home, if you were happy in the home that you landed in, if you were accepted in home, if you could be vaccinated or unvaccinated in a home, like all these politics that were addressed in home that we can't forget moving forward into accepting certain personalities that conspiracy theories want to involve themselves into our own personalities, because they are all they're not all, they're majority, they're all, yes, based on facts that can be proven and not linearly, not linearly crossed off, but they can be, how can I say this? They can be traced to connect with one another, right? And most of you know that on that journey, it's follow the money, and knowing what justice, the overall rulings of justice was meant to do, or what the intention was. Some of you realize that that journey means to always follow the money, because it takes away the emotional sector, and that emotional sector is what a lot of humans are in this time of need, think that they need to propel themselves more in, when it's just not true. Healing is knowing, yes, your emotions, but also giving yourself an opportunity to heal them, becoming mature about them, so that you can talk about them in remembrance instead of in the fraudulence of memories. A lot of you will experience ego deaths, of course, with this naturally. I feel that there's nowhere else to run besides letting go of your ego, and then to really be left with your soul. That also means your light codes, your DNA codes, if you're familiar with that, building a relationship with them, traveling with them via consciousness, traveling them astrally, to understand that death is just another form of rebirth. And then when you wake up in the third dimension, that you understand what I meant earlier, that not everyone in the third dimension are of seventh dimensional consciousness, just because they can speak in fifth dimensional journeying of having traveled all dimensions. Okay, so there's an element to the surprise for the majority of you that are looking to try to ground this energy, are wondering how other people are being grounded at this energy during this time, when it's nothing but fucking chaos here on the surface level of things, because again, it's the emotions that I'm bypassing, because the emotions are not going to help you make sense of everything. The emotions are just going to confuse you more. So we have to look at the laws of justice into perpetuating what's, yes, truthful, and yes, also not truthful, and dance in the medium, so that we can get into honesty, because honesty will have no room but to deliver a set where you can only fit in. And in that room of only being able to fit in is where you'll learn your own sort of comfort, right? And that's where this card of Four of Wands is more of the governing of your mind, to be able to, you know, find a way to make it through these times, if these times are very overwhelming or have been very overwhelming for you. And one way to do that is to, again, safely and graciously for yourself, adapt yourself into knowing more modalities into self-care, to not make it a routine structure that you have to show up for them, to make it an obligation, but to more understand it's unconditional love you're providing for yourself. And in doing so, you learn the vulnerable sensitivities of sometimes being right and sometimes being wrong, and the universe not caring about either of those emotions, just more of the action and the purity of such. All right, I'm going to leave it there. I hope that these messages were insightful in these times, if you are adept to knowing what these energies of diving into Q could mean. And we're trying to keep it as humanistic here as possible, streamlined and basic. And as basic as it is, we're triggering the shit out of everyone. All right, so with that being said, take the messages as they may or may not have resonated for you. And wherever you are in this time of space, may you keep flowing, growing, and glowing. And I hope that you consider subscribing to both of my channels if you haven't done so already. Take care.